Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of Walking Dead Snack Bites. Today we're going to be talking about the Walking Dead Season 9 finale. Before we get into it, please make sure to follow us at all of our social channels below, and also check out the Facebook page at The Living Michonne. So, The Walking Dead is finally doing snow, which I actually thought was pretty cool. I like the effect. I'm not exactly sure how they did that. I don't know if it was like a snow machine or whatever, but either way, it was pretty cool. The only thing I thought was kind of weird was, like, obviously the rules are inconsistent in terms of like how the walkers respond. I mean, like, how is it that one of them was like, you know, Daryl hit him with the like butt of his crossbow and it shattered like an ice cube, but then like some of them you would stab them and like liquid blood would come out. Like, I'm not sure what was going on there.
But varying degrees of temperature somehow or something. Honestly, I would need to know how cold it was, period, out there, because I didn't think that it could get that cold in the South. Like, I don't know, I'm not from there. I'm from Chicago, where, you know, polar vortex and blizzards are like the norm these days. I need to know how cold it actually was to determine what makes sense or not. So it's just kind of a big question mark. But it, you know, it honestly, seeing those ice walkers just made me think of Game of Thrones.
I think there was a couple comparisons like across the internet about that. But people were like accusing The Walking Dead of like ripping that off or whatever. But like, that's silly because, I mean, in the comics they did winter right from the very beginning. They just didn't do it on the show because it was too expensive. Scott Gimple was like lamenting about that actually at one point, saying that he wanted to do the winter when he was show running, and now it's, you know, he didn't get the chance to be the one in charge of it. Anyway, so I think the most interesting thing about this episode was actually like the Negan thing. I think that this, you know, he rescued Judith, right? And so I think that that's probably like the single most redeeming thing that he's probably like ever done. I've really missed Negan this whole season. It's been very frustrating just having him locked up in that cell. You know, the whole time it just kind of feels like there's this brilliant asset, right, like in him that is just not being utilized, and he's just rotting down there. And, you know, I get the reason why Rick decided to throw him down there in the first place, but again, it's like, especially now with the Whispers and somebody as crazy and evil as Alpha around, man, they need to like fight fire with fire. And there's no more, like, you need to fight a brutal dictator with somebody who knows how to be a brutal dictator, right? And there's nobody better qualified to do that than Negan.
Well, even from just if you remove the Whispers from the equation, I've always maintained that you know, Negan should have been pulling his weight. Like, you know, if he's your prisoner, instead of leaving him in a cell all the time, like, it was still unclear to me if he ever got outdoor time, what do they call it, like
yard time.
Yard time, almost said playground time. Yard time. But I would have had him, like, you know, tending to like the crops and stuff, and I don't know, doing maintenance or whatever. Like, he would have been doing some kind of labor, not just sitting in a basement with books all day.
Yeah, I mean,
you need all hands on board regardless, because it's the apocalypse, and you don't, you know.
Well, especially since in the apocalypse, like, food and resources and water in general are just like so scarce. Why would you just be wasting it like that on somebody who's not really you know what I mean? I mean, he's of no use to anybody, and he's a drain on those resources that we've seen several times over the show. I mean, people starve and almost die all the time because there's not enough food, and here you are like giving food to somebody who is not contributing in any way to like the advancement of society. So like, and especially knowing that he has those leadership skills, like, he should be utilized in some way, even if it's as simple as coming up with, like, I don't know, building instructions or anything, just anything that to make him pull his own weight. So I hope that, you know, obviously they let him out, because in the last scene he's talking to Michonne. He's in that same bed that I guess he was in the end of season 8. And he actually mentioned that. He's like, the last time I was laying here, you know, Rick was tearing stitches out of my throat or something like that, which seemed to upset Michonne because she left the room almost immediately after that. But
she didn't want to go down there and say thank you in the first place. Like, I knew it was coming. She was like, thank you, I guess.
It's a good sign though. I mean, I'm glad that she finally has like sort of come around, you know,
sat down and talked with him.
To him, because it's it's been a while now. It's been 6 years. I mean, like, I think it's pretty clear, given the fact that he got out, went all the way back to the sanctuary, and then changed his mind and willingly went back into that cell. He's not a threat to anybody anymore. If he was going to do some kind of hostile takeover, he would have done it the first time that he got out, you know? Like, they don't have anything to worry about anymore. I think we can trust him.
Yeah.
What else happened in the season finale? Judith ran off again.
Oh, that, well, okay. God. Ran off after a dog.
Get a leash for that kid.
Ezekiel and Carol got a divorce, or she left him, abandoned him, or whatever. I think that it was very underplayed. We hardly saw them even talk, like, in the episode until... The only time we actually saw them speak together was when she was going to leave him. Like, everything else was them talking to other people, which I feel like was a disservice to their relationship, although at the same time, I feel like their relationship was contrived to begin with. So I just feel mostly confused. Like, I don't know, I don't feel...
Maybe Morgan and her will end up together if she's back on the market.
If they cross paths again. I always thought that it should have been Morgan and Carol. Ezekiel kind of came out left field, like, after the whole... He, like, shamed her for not... I don't know, like, not helping with the war or something. I don't know. Like, dude, yeah. You don't know Carol. She's done a lot.
Yeah.
She saved a lot of folks.
Well, but, I mean, I understood that, though, because he was also the first person to see through her, and he knew that she was putting on this,
he was
like,
not.
act.
Morgan was.
Well, I mean, like, in the kingdom, though. When she was...
Besides Ezekiel and Jerry, and the other lady with the crossbow.
No, I'm just saying that when she was at the kingdom, though, she was putting on the whole, like, you know, like, innocent act, and he saw right through it, and so I think he was more upset that she wasn't using her inner warrior to, like, help with everything. That was what he was upset about. I can't
remember the exact situation, but I just remember he was wrong. I didn't know what he was talking about, but just for clarification, Morgan was the first one to see Carol's facade.
That's true.
He said, no, I hear what you're saying, but it's not matching up to how you're acting.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I know that was a weird scene because, like, it seemed like Ezekiel just kind of gave up, like, really easily, you know? Like, he didn't...
Well, no, because it had been 2 months, so it had been 2 months of this whole, them not talking or whatever, essentially. That's why I felt like they should have shown more.
Yeah.
They should have given it a little bit, like, just another 3 minutes even to clarify what was going on with their relationship. I didn't think that was fair.
That was a really random, just sort of like out of left field type of a thing. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess they're done now. I mean, what, huh? So many time jumps during the season. Yeah, one at the very beginning, one after Rick left, and then another one now, so 3. That's a lot of time jumps for one season. So yeah, and we don't agree about this, but I mean, I didn't like what Ezekiel said to Daryl. I thought that was just, like, super lame.
That was his last resort.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
It was a plea. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a condemnation. It was, can you do me a solid? Like, you know, I'm trying to get my wife to talk to me. She's not talking to me because she keeps talking to you. And, you know, I don't think he was saying it was a Daryl problem. It was more of a Carol leaning on Daryl because he's there. And if he's not there, she, you know, he maneuvered into talking to him.
It's not fair though to Daryl because he also leans on her, you know, like he's asking Daryl to sort of in a way like not enjoy his friendship with Carol, like for the sake of like saving, and I just don't think that's like right.
Before the whole Pike scene, like the only reason why Daryl came out in the first place was to, you know, because Carol, like he'd been in hibernation for the longest time, and she had to go make her business in the woods. So I don't even really feel that bad because it's like, even if he goes back to his little wood hovel or whatever, it's not like Carol wouldn't know where he was. Yeah. It's not like he was saying leave town forever and don't tell anyone where you're going. He just, you know, just a little bit of distance so that they could process this huge death that they just experienced.
Yeah.
This huge murder death.
Oof.
Which is even worse.
Pike scene, yeah. I mean, I speaking of Daryl, I do like what they've done with his character ever since Rick left. I don't think he's, you know, in any way a replacement for Rick, obviously, but he's certainly 1,000 times more likable than he's been the last, like, 3 years. He's...
Was Connie even in this episode? She wasn't, was she?
I don't remember. If she was, she didn't do anything memorable.
Well, I just wanted to also say, I know there was a lot that should have been discussed with Carol and Ezekiel. Like, one, Ezekiel talked to Alpha before she took Henry, and that was probably a point of contention in their relationship, like whether Ezekiel blamed himself or whether Carol covertly blamed Ezekiel for that. Like, we don't know. I mean, there's like a lot of different layers that just weren't discussed at all. Like, we didn't get to see it. Like, that's why I feel like the time jumps can be a disservice. Like, there are things in that 6 years we didn't see that we should have seen, and I just don't think that was it should have been a two-parter or something. Like, there was so much more material, or at least an extra half an hour that they could have covered.
I mean, at least they explained the scars thing and why Michonne was, you know, acting so distrustful. Like, that was a good episode. Scars.
As a Michonne fan, like, I wanted to see when Michonne, you know, after Rick's gone, obviously, she's still looking for him. When did she realize she was pregnant? You know, what was it like, you know, being pregnant alone and, you know, walking in the room that she shared with Rick? Like, we didn't get any of that, like, quality drama.
Yeah.
Of her, like, mourning the loss of him and going through this pregnancy by herself. Like, did any of those people go visit her? Like, Carol or, you know, Drew's talking about, oh, I remember you. I haven't seen you in 6 years. I remember you, Carol, Maggie, whatever. Like, did any of these people go check on Michonne? Like, oh, so you're carrying Rick's baby. Okay, bye. Like, we didn't get anything.
It's true, yeah.
Daryl, other than Daryl, I don't think anybody was even around.
Yeah, they definitely didn't explain that stuff very well. I still don't fully really understand. Like, I mean, I think it was pretty clearly explained why Michonne was so distrustful of new people, like Magna and Yumiko and all those. Like, that made sense after the episode of Scars, right? Where she had to, like, end up killing a bunch of kids who had been, like, brainwashed by an old friend of hers. But I didn't think that they really did a very good job of explaining, like, why there was this tension between her and the main characters that, like, I still don't really get, like, why.
We talked about this before, me and you talked about this, not on camera, but I basically said, like, I compared it to, like, if a family member, you know, says, hey, you know, let me hold $50. I need some help with, you know, I need some help at home with some bills. And then you're like, I'm sorry, I don't have it. You can come to my crib and, you know, we can have dinner or whatever, you can hang out with the kids, but, like, I can't be giving you money right now because I need the money for myself. That doesn't mean don't ever come here again. But it sounds like they were like, well, she can't help us. Well, I don't want to have anything to do with Alexandria. She's not giving us what we want. And it's like, well, that's weird too. You know what I mean? Like,
it was strange. I mean, they kind of, like, touched on it, you know? I mean, a couple times, like, Jesus or Tara or whoever would say things like, you know, Michonne made a lot of choices that not everybody agreed with, or something like that, but it was very vague, you know? I mean, it was never, like, explained explicitly what happened to piss one side or the other off. I don't know.
Season 10, I know they're going to do their whole whisper thing, but to make sure there isn't, like, a repeat of the Saviors, they need to go the Lost route and do a fuck ton of flashbacks during that 6 years to fill in some gaps and some holes and, like, you know, give me the flashbacks, because, like, there's a lot of stuff where I'm just going like, what?
Yeah.
You know, 6 years is a long time to explain drastic changes in characters, and there's a lot of ground to be covered, and you can do it very easily, like a handful of flashbacks here, a handful there. You can do one whole episode that's like just 100% flashback. That would be fine too. It would be definitely a missed opportunity if they don't go that route. And speaking of missed opportunities, it was very anticlimactic hearing that voice on the radio.
Yeah, I was waiting for this. So you know, that whole theory that was going around for days before that was like, oh, it's gonna be Rick on the radio. I mean, I was like, oh, don't get your hopes up.
It should have been though.
I would have liked that too, but I was not confident that that was gonna happen. I mean, come on, just, like, how would that even happen? Like, Andrew Lincoln is not, they're not shooting anything right now. He's over in England. Like,
no, they didn't shoot this last, you know, 2 weeks ago. They shot this a long time ago. And it would have been very easy to get his audio.
Yeah.
Like, you could do that over the phone.
I know, but I mean, he was only credited for 5 episodes though, and his 5th was a long time ago.
But that wouldn't necessarily be even an episode credit. Like, having, like, a sentence or two on, you don't have to get an episode credit necessarily for that. It would just be like uncredited Andrew Lincoln, voice on the radio. So there are loopholes around that. It just, you know, I think would have been better for the audience if it had been, I mean, nobody was there in the room to hear the voice anyway.
Yeah.
So it would have been more for us than for the people there. And that would have been a great setup for the movies.
Yeah, and so speaking of like who it actually was on the radio, I thought it sounded like Maggie, personally. I mean, first of all, it's clearly a woman, we know that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to it again, there's a southern accent in there with what she's saying. Even if you can't necessarily understand what she's saying, there's a southern accent. Jadis doesn't have a southern accent, really.
No.
So, I don't think it's Jadis. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking on behalf of the fans, just wanting it to be somebody who's like close to Rick, right? And I get it, trust me, like I'm right there with you.
Made it Heath.
I want there to be somebody on, I want to hear from somebody who is like either around Rick or from Rick himself. Believe me, I totally understand where you're coming from, but like, I don't even think the first one is fully written yet, because Scott Gimple said that he's writing it all himself, and that was just a couple months ago. There's certainly nowhere near shooting it. I mean, there's like so many things that could happen in terms of like the casting and contractual negotiating side of things between now and then. They would not put something like that this soon in the show. The movies are not constructed yet.
But they're definitely doing them.
They're definitely doing them, but they're not like set in stone enough to where they can like for sure start making references to them in the show, is what I'm saying. It's too early. So we'll probably see some stuff like that in season 10. But I highly doubt that whoever it was on the radio had anything to do with where Rick is. It's probably something like the Commonwealth or one of the other groups that's from the comic. It could be where Maggie is. It could be like, you know, it could be Georgie. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Georgie has an accent either.
I'm not excited about any of those things.
Me neither.
I would be more excited if it was Rick, Jadis, or Heath, who happens to be with Rick, which is still my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see. That was definitely a letdown because, you know, they've been teasing that stupid radio like the entire season as if there's going to be like this big reveal, and then they were like, oh, it's a stunning reveal or whatever at the end, and then it was just like, okay.
Some chick.
It was anticlimactic for sure, but hey, at least like it didn't end on a huge bummer or something that made us not want to watch the next season the way that season 6 ended. Anything more about season 9? It's been a struggle of a season, right? I mean, everybody's still getting used to Rick not being there. And I think that they're doing a really good job. I like what Angela Kang is doing. I think that it's being done about as good as it possibly could be, given the fact that they just lost their main character. I think that's about it. What do you guys think? You guys looking forward to season 10? I am. I want to find out what the heck happened to Rick, and I'm sure there's going to be some stuff in season 10 regarding that. And Maggie, like, she just disappeared overnight. What's up with that? Anyway, leave your comments below. Follow us at all of our social channels below, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.